They say you never really know someone until you see them when they think no one's watching. The drone footage came back on a Tuesday. A flash drive in a velvet box, tied with twine and delivered by the wedding videographer with a note, "Here's your day from above, enjoy." I didn't open it right away. It wasn't reluctance. It was routine. Life after a wedding is strangely anticlimactic. Like the party ends and you're left with glitter in the carpet and bruises you don't remember getting. The honeymoon was short, a cabin upstate with poor Wi-Fi and forced smiles. When we returned, I dove into work. Routine is a wonderful blindfold. But Tuesday was slow, and I was home early. I poured a glass of Pinot Noir and loaded the footage on my laptop while dinner warmed in the oven. I expected drone shots of the venue rolling hills, the rustic barn, guests milling about with flutes of Prosecco. Instead, I saw something else. Something I can't ever unsee. The drone was flying over the back garden during the reception, just after sunset. It hovered there, silently recording, as two small figures slipped behind the old greenhouse where the ivy was thickest. One wore a white dress, my wife's white dress, and the other, a man, pulled her into the shadows and began unzipping it. The camera caught enough to freeze my blood. I paused the footage. The oven beeped in the background. Something inside me went very still, like my whole body became a closed door, waiting for a knock. I pressed play. They were half hidden behind the greenhouse, but the drone caught their outlines. Her hands, trembling, undid the back of her own dress. His head bent low to kiss her collarbone. A moment of hesitation. Hers. He touched her chin. Then her hands dropped to her sides. I slammed the laptop shut. Sarah had been quiet after the wedding. I thought she was just tired. Weddings are exhausting, even small ones. We dated 4 years. Met at a city council meeting. I was a video editor freelancing from my basement. She was a teacher. Her laugh had been the kind that made you want to say something clever just to hear it again. She had told me once she hated being filmed. I respected that. I didn't film her much, not even on the wedding day. But now I had this. The footage I never wanted. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside her and listened to the sounds of her breathing. It was steady, soft, innocent. The kind of sound that, a week ago, would have made me love her harder. Now it made me want to scream. The next morning, I played the footage again. Slower this time. The man? He wore dark slacks. A light shirt, sleeves rolled. His face wasn't visible. I scanned the footage frame by frame, watching the way he touched her. Too familiar. I tried to tell myself it was innocent, a last-minute adjustment, a wardrobe malfunction, but you don't press your mouth to someone's bare shoulder if you're just fixing a zipper. I kept watching. Eventually, they disappeared behind the greenhouse entirely. The drone drifted away, oblivious. Later that day, I called the videographer. "Hey man," I said, trying to sound casual. "Loved the drone shots. Just wondering, do you have any more footage? Like, raw files, maybe different angles?" He hesitated. Sure, I can upload the B-roll to Drive. There's like 30 minutes of it. Most of it's just scenery. Why? Something wrong? No. Just curious." I hung up and checked Sarah's schedule. She had an after-school workshop, wouldn't be home until 6. That gave me time. I opened the full footage on a bigger screen in the basement studio. I combed through every second. At 7:18 p.m., the drone hovers again behind the greenhouse. There's movement, just shadows. Then, a hand. His hand. Holding up her dress. I paused. Rewound. Zoomed in. The ring. A silver ring on his middle finger. I recognized that ring. It belonged to her childhood friend. David. David had been one of the witnesses. He gave a speech. He toasted us. He laughed too loudly when someone joked about old flames. I didn't confront her that night. Or the next. Instead, I studied. I rewatched the footage. I studied David's body language at the wedding. I scrolled through old photos, looking for that damn ring. I watched our wedding video with new eyes. The way she looked at him. The way he looked at her. It wasn't just a mistake behind the greenhouse. This was deeper. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I stayed up and began editing the drone footage. I cut everything else out. Just a 45-second clip. I adjusted the contrast, slowed it to 70%. I added a piano track beneath it, something sad, cinematic. I uploaded it to a private folder, labeled it Wedding Memories. Then I sent the link to Sarah, no message, just the link. Then I went to bed and waited for the knock. She didn't knock. She stood at the bedroom door holding her phone, not even blinking. Her lips parted as if to speak, but nothing came out. I watched her from the bed, barely breathing. My heart was a clenched fist inside my chest. "You sent this," she whispered. I nodded. Her face was pale, not the flushed embarrassment I half expected, not even guilt. "Fear. Where did you get this?" she asked, voice low. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. She looked down at the phone again, the silent video still looping. My wife being undressed behind the house on the day she said, "I do." A day we vowed ourselves to each other, in front of our families, our friends. My mother cried. David toasted us with that ring on his finger and a joke in his voice. "Say something," she said, almost begging. "Was it just that day?" I asked. My voice came out cracked, hollow. "Or have you been fucking him for longer?" Her jaw tightened. "It wasn't like that." "Then explain it," I snapped, sitting up. "Explain how the witness at our wedding took off your dress while the guests were dancing." Sarah closed her eyes, her whole body folding in on itself, like someone had hit the pause button, and she was buffering. "I made a mistake," she said finally, barely audible. I laughed. I laughed so hard it scared me. That wasn't a mistake. That was choreography. She walked toward the bed, slowly, as if crossing a minefield. "I didn't plan it," she said. "It was stupid and impulsive, and I don't even know why I did it. I was scared." "Scared of what? Being happy?" She looked down. "Of marrying the wrong person." The silence that followed was violent. It sucked all the air out of the room. "I loved you," I said, the words tumbling out like glass. "I know," she whispered. "That's what makes this worse." I stood up, chest tight. "So was it him? All along? Were you two before the wedding?" Sarah looked up at me. Her eyes were wet but dry, like the tears had retreated inward. "No," she said. "It started the night before. David had shown up late to the rehearsal dinner. He brought a bottle of wine from a vineyard he'd visited in Italy. He hugged me and clapped my back like nothing. But later, Sarah disappeared for half an hour. I thought she'd gone to take a call. Now I knew better. It wasn't planned," she repeated. "I was anxious and, I don't know, I felt like I needed to touch something familiar. Like I needed to remember who I was before I became someone else." "So you remembered by fucking him?" "Don't say it like that." "How should I say it?" "I don't know," she shouted. "I don't know, okay? You were always so sure about everything, about us. I felt like I was getting swept into your life." "My life?" I said, stunned. "I made a life for us. I built a life around you." "I know," she said, sobbing now. "I know you did. And I didn't deserve it. We didn't speak for 2 days. I slept in the basement. She stayed in our room. On the 3rd morning, I found a note on the kitchen counter. 'I'm staying at my sister's. Please don't call me yet. I'm not ready.' There was no apology, no mention of love, just a plea for silence. And yet part of me was relieved. I didn't want to scream anymore. I didn't want to cry. I wanted quiet. I wanted to breathe again. I spent the next day obsessively watching the drone footage. I zoomed in on David's hands, on Sarah's lips, on the way her shoulders rose and fell like she was fighting herself. And then, at minute 17:32, something new. Someone else appears in the frame, just for a second. A woman in a red dress, blonde hair, carrying a clutch, walking around the side of the greenhouse. She sees them. She stops, and then quickly walks the other way. I hadn't noticed her before. The footage was so focused on the main event that I never looked at the periphery. I froze the frame and zoomed in. It was Leah, my sister. She saw it happen. She saw Sarah and David behind the greenhouse and said nothing. I called her. "Hey," she answered casually. "You okay?" "No," I said. "Can we talk?" She came over that evening. She looked nervous. carrying a bottle of wine like it was a peace offering. I poured 2 glasses. We didn't touch them. You were there, I said. You saw them. Leah looked down, her fingers twisting in her lap. I saw something, she said. I wasn't sure what I saw. You saw enough to say something. She took a deep breath. Tom, it was your wedding. I didn't want to ruin it. I thought maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Do you still think that? Leah looked at me, her voice low and firm. No, I think it was exactly what it looked like, and I'm sorry I didn't say anything. That night, I sat in the kitchen long after she left, sipping cold wine and staring at the still frame of my wife being undressed by someone else. But now a new frame was etched in my mind. The face of my sister, turning away. I didn't answer Sarah's texts for 5 days. I buried myself in work editing political ads for a local campaign that barely paid, just so I didn't have to be alone with my thoughts. But even in the whir of timelines and color grading, I'd find myself drifting. Seeing that flash of white behind the greenhouse again, by Friday night, I hadn't eaten anything warm in 2 days. Then David texted me, Tom, we need to talk, man to man. I stared at the message for 10 minutes. Then I replied, tomorrow, 8 p.m., my house. He sent a thumbs up emoji, like this was a dinner plan. I wanted to kill him. I didn't tell Sarah. I didn't tell Leah. I wanted it to be clean, him and me. Just the 2 men who had stood at opposite ends of the altar, pretending they didn't know what was already broken. When David arrived, he looked calm. Too calm. Like a man who had already rehearsed his lines in the mirror. Thanks for seeing me, he said. I stepped aside. Don't thank me. He sat on the couch like it was his living room. Like we hadn't both been standing next to the same woman, her hand in mine, while he was still tasting her skin on his tongue. I won't waste time, he said. What happened that night was a mistake. A terrible lapse in judgment. I've known Sarah since we were kids, and we just got caught in something. A mistake, I said. That's what you're calling it? I don't expect forgiveness. But I want you to know I didn't love her. That stopped me. What? David looked at the floor. I didn't love her. I was just in something with her. Familiarity, nostalgia. She felt scared. I felt important. That's all. I walked to the window. The backyard was dark, but I could still see the outline of the greenhouse. You did that on my wedding day, I said quietly. I know, he said, and I hate myself for it. Then why did you do it? He was silent for a long time. Because she kissed me first, he said. That landed like a hammer. I wasn't going to, he continued. I swear to God I wasn't. But she was crying. And I asked her what was wrong. She said she felt like she was suffocating. That she didn't know who she was anymore. And then she kissed me. I turned, staring at him. I stopped it, he said. I did. But then she took my hand, and she said, don't let me go back in there yet. Later that night, after David left, I sat in the backyard with a bottle of scotch and the drone controller. I turned the drone on, let it rise into the night sky. It buzzed like a giant hornet, its red lights blinking. I flew it above the greenhouse, hovered there, looked down. The space was empty. Ivy curled along the sides. The gravel path was still scattered with petals from the wedding. No one had cleaned it up. Like a crime scene sealed off by neglect. I thought about the kiss, her kiss, the one she gave him, not me. And then I flew the drone out over the trees, over the empty barn, out toward the hills, as far as the signal would go, and I let it fall. I killed the motors mid-flight, watched the little screen as it spun, tumbled, crashed somewhere into the dark forest. I didn't want that camera in the sky anymore. The next day, Sarah came home. She didn't knock this time either. She walked in like nothing had changed, except her eyes were hollow and her voice small. Did he come? He did. She stood at the edge of the kitchen. Did he tell you everything? He told me enough. She nodded, swallowing hard. Did you love him? I asked. No, she said. But I needed him to see me. That hit harder than I expected. To see you? I asked. What am I, blind? No, she said, stepping closer. You loved me. But you never saw me scared. I would have held you, I said, almost breaking. All you had to do was say something. I didn't want you to see me weak, so instead you let him see you naked. The silence that followed was merciless. That night she slept in the guest room. I slept in ours. And sometime around 3 a.m., I woke up and walked quietly to her door. I stood there, hand raised, ready to knock. But I didn't. I stood there for 20 minutes, listening to her cry through the wall. The morning after she cried herself to sleep, Sarah acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, toasted bread, even asked if I wanted eggs, like we were back in the 3rd week of marriage when domestic rituals still felt like affection. I nodded but didn't speak. We moved like ghosts around each other, shadows brushing in doorways. Later, I sat at my desk pretending to work, watching her through the window as she stood in the backyard, barefoot in the dewy grass, staring at the greenhouse. She wasn't crying, she just stood there, like she was waiting for someone to come out of the past. That evening, I got a call from my cousin Jack. He'd brought his own drone to the wedding and recorded some shots as a surprise. He'd finally finished editing and wanted to share. "Thought you might want a different angle of your special day," he said. My heart jumped. I asked him to send it over. He emailed me a link with a simple subject line, "Alternative Perspectives." I opened it on my studio monitor. Full HD. Different drone. Different angles. Same nightmare. At minute 4:13, the camera dips low behind the barn. Wide shot, capturing the greenhouse from a slanted angle. There, caught in the corner of the frame, was me, watching them, not up close, not obviously, just standing off to the side, behind a tree, barely in frame, but unmistakably present. I had been there. I had seen them. My mind reeled. I didn't remember that. Not consciously. But the video didn't lie. I watched again. At 4:14, my head turns slightly. My hand moves to my mouth. Then I walk away. My memory snapped, like a rubber band. That moment during the reception, I had stepped outside to call the caterer. They'd forgotten to bring more glasses for the champagne. I remembered walking behind the barn to get better reception. I remembered hearing voices. And I remembered looking, just for a second. Enough to see fabric falling, enough to know, but I'd buried it. Immediately. Shoved it so deep it had become part of the foundation. And now, the footage yanked it out like a rotten root. I didn't tell Sarah. Instead, I printed a still frame from the video of me watching. I left it on her pillow. When she found it, she came into my studio, holding the photo like it was radioactive. "You knew?" she asked. "I forgot I knew," I said. "Is that worse?" She sat down on the floor, suddenly small. "Why didn't you say anything?" "I think I wanted to pretend it didn't happen. Just like you." She looked at the photo. So we both lied. Yes. To each other? To ourselves. She began to cry silently this time. No drama, no performance. Just tears tracing lines down her face like they'd been waiting for years to escape. "I thought," she whispered, "that if I just got through the day, if I just made it to I do, the rest would fix itself. It doesn't work that way," I said. "I know that now." She moved back into the guest room permanently. We didn't talk much after that. Just notes on the fridge, texts about groceries, an occasional "did you feed the cat?" Then, one evening, I found her on the porch holding a small box. "I think you should have this," she said, handing it to me. I opened it. It was the wedding ring I'd given her. And inside, a flash drive. "The original drone footage," she said. "All of it. Even the parts we cut," I asked the videographer. "Why give it to me?" "Because I don't want to carry it anymore." I nodded, taking it. She turned to go back inside, then stopped. "One day," she said, not looking at me, "you're going to wonder if I ever loved you, and I just want you to know." I did. I really did. Then she went back inside. I sat on the porch a long time. The box felt too heavy in my lap for what it was. That night, I loaded the flash drive, and what I found wasn't what I expected. Yes, the scene was still there, but after that moment, after the dress came off and the two figures vanished behind the greenhouse, the drone kept flying. And at minute 10:56, it caught something else. Someone else. A girl, maybe 10 or 11, hiding behind the old oak tree, recording on a phone. She had long brown hair. A flower crown. One of the flower girls. Maybe a niece of someone. She was filming everything. I froze. There was another camera, another version, out there, in someone's pocket, on someone's phone. I spent the next 2 days calling relatives. I asked about the flower girls, who invited them, who they belonged to. Most didn't remember. Eventually, my sister Leah texted me a blurry group photo from the reception. In the bottom right corner, there she was. Long brown hair, white dress, pink sneakers. Holding a phone like it was a secret. She's Jenna, Leah wrote. Maid of honor's cousin, lives in Reno. I got her aunt's number through 3 layers of awkward Facebook messages. When I finally called, a woman answered with a tired voice and a dog barking in the background. I told her I was the groom from the wedding a few weeks ago, that there'd been some complications with the video, and I was wondering if Jenna might have filmed anything. The woman paused, then laughed bitterly. She won't stop watching that damn clip, she said. Had no idea what she was filming, thought it was romantic. I told her to delete it. She didn't. Would you mind if I saw it? Another pause, then a sigh. I'll have her send it. The clip came that night, barely 90 seconds. Shot from behind a tree, grainy, handheld, shaky, but clear. The white dress, the rolled sleeves, the kiss. Her shoulders, her mouth, the tension. But what shocked me, what made me sit back, stomach churning, was the sound. Jenna hadn't turned off the mic. You could hear everything. Sarah. We can't. Not here. David. You're shaking, Sarah. This isn't right. David. Say stop. Then silence. And then the zipper. I couldn't breathe. I watched it again. Then again. Not because I needed confirmation of what happened, but because something shifted inside me. This wasn't how I imagined it. Not how I'd replayed it 100 times, like a looped betrayal. This wasn't seduction. This was hesitation. She hadn't been drunk. She hadn't been giggling. She'd been crying. I didn't sleep that night. I sat with the footage, rewinding and fast-forwarding, not out of revenge or obsession, but because a new question began to form. Had she wanted it at all? Not just in the was she willing sense, but in the deeper, darker one. Was this infidelity or surrender? Was she trying to escape something? Me? Herself? The weight of everything? The next morning, I went upstairs. She was folding laundry in the guest room, the window open. The scent of rain on hot pavement drifted in, sharp and earthy. I saw the footage, I said. She froze. The one from the girl. With sound, she turned to me, lips parted, face pale. I didn't know she recorded that, she whispered. I don't think you knew anything in that moment, I said, except that you wanted out. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, hands trembling in her lap. I was afraid, she said, not of you, of how certain everything felt. I wanted to burn something, and he was there. I sat beside her, not touching. I hated you, I said quietly, for taking something from me, but now I'm not even sure what it was. She nodded. I didn't know either, until I saw myself in that video. I looked like someone else, like a stranger. We sat in silence. The laundry sat between us like a peace treaty that neither of us signed. A week later, she moved out. No screaming. No custody battles. We had no kids. No lawyers yet. Just a quiet parting. Like 2 people closing a door they'd both been leaning against too long. Before she left, she handed me the box of wedding keepsakes. Photos, invitations, her vows. I didn't ask why. At the bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, was the photo I'd left on her pillow, the one of me watching them. She had written something on the back. You saw me, even when I didn't want to be seen. I think that's what love really is. And what I wasn't ready for. It's been 6 months. The greenhouse is gone. I tore it down myself, pane by pane, one weekend. I told everyone it was rotting. No one questioned it. The drone was never recovered. Sometimes I wonder if that girl still watches the video. If it'll float through the digital ether someday, misinterpreted, reshared, turned into something unrecognizable. Other nights I think about Sarah. Not with hate, not with longing, but with a strange kind of respect. She wasn't the villain. She was just a mirror. And maybe, so was I. I never sent the footage to anyone. I never confronted David again. Some betrayals are so intimate they become their own grave. But I did keep one thing. The 4-second clip of me watching. The man I used to be. The one who didn't know yet what people are capable of. What love can become when it's left to fester behind a greenhouse, under a dress, on the happiest day of your life. Sometimes, I still watch him. Not to remember, but to forgive